Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching our pre-departure orientation for Japan. My name is Rachel. I'll be presenting today. Today we're going to go over some cultural and daily life reminders, academic matters, health and safety, some tips before you go to your program, and also some reminders on how to keep in touch with ISEP while you're on your program. So first is life in Japan. So just some facts. Japan is an island nation with 125 million people and 15 million people alone in Tokyo. It's a very mountainous landscape. There's lots of farms also closer to the coastal cities in the country. Japan has a very temperate climate in the center of the country, and then the northern islands are very cold. So that would be the areas like Hokkaido, whereas the southern islands have an almost tropical climate, like Okinawa. It's a very diverse climate that they have. It's a very homogeneous population. 97.5% of the people are ethnically Japanese. And there's also a very strong preservation of historical landmarks like castles and shrines throughout the country. But they also have a really great transportation system throughout the country, and so it makes traveling across the region very popular. We'll talk about Japanese culture next. So, on the one hand, Japanese culture is rooted in thousands of years of Shintoism, which is a native religion and philosophy, Buddhist and Confucian thought. But on the other hand, social, political, and technological innovation is in a constant state of change. It's not surprising to be seeing a really new and high-tech technology in one place, and then you take a couple steps to the left and then you'll see a preserved shrine. So that's a really unique thing of Japan culture. Confucianism dominates philosophical and political thought. So this idea of respect and honoring your elders, saving face, and keeping the social harmony are prevalent across the society. Family relations are an important part of Japanese culture, and Japanese work culture is also very unique because it can be seen as somebody linking themselves and their individual identity with the work that they do. So you might see somebody introduce themselves as I am Nissan's Miss Nakagashi. That's something that you'll commonly hear when people are greeting and introducing themselves. And cleanliness and hygiene are highly prioritized in Japan as well. In terms of daily life, so work and education are prioritized as main ways for Japanese people to spend their time. In their spare time, Japan families and spending time with them, recreation, and sharing food, they're some of the most important and favorite Japanese pastimes. There are a lot of food establishments that are open fairly late to accommodate the late working culture. So you might see that around. And there are many invisible and visible rules too, as well. So they're going to be related to things like courtesy and respect, like we were mentioning before. So this idea of bowing and hierarchical rules, etc. You'll see that between different interpersonal relationships and also in different gestures that people are going to do. On the topic of interpersonal relationships, here are some things that you want to keep in mind. If you meet somebody in Japan, you may wish to give them a little bow, but you do not necessarily need to bow to everybody who bows to you. It's very important to respect other people's space, especially if you're going into their home. So this idea of offering small gifts or removing your shoes when you step in, removing your outside shoes, so important. They may give you slippers to wear. This idea of gender dynamics too, as well, and how they operate within the household is something that you may find is different from your home institution. We recommend looking this up and researching that a little bit more. Hospitality can be very insistent due to the guest culture. So you may meet somebody, for example, if you're doing a host family and your mother is insistent on giving you something to eat, that is their way of expressing their hospitality to you. So don't be too surprised if you experience that. But also pay attention to nonverbal cues as well. People might not directly express their discomfort to you all the time. So please be mindful and ready for that. San is a suffix that is used to show signs of respect to people. So many people will refer to your name and call you san and expect you to do the same. So be ready to do that when you're talking to people. And then there's also this idea of the way you talk to somebody being impacted by whether you consider yourself close to that person or not. So there is this idea of uchi and soto, where uchi are the people who are very close to you, and soto would be the people that are outside of that. Maybe people that you are meeting very briefly, not on a regular basis. So Japanese people may change their vocabulary based on people who they find they're very close to. And if you have any questions on this, you can reach out to your student services officer. We can assist with that, or we recommend looking it up on your own too. But this idea of groups and being with a group is very important in Japanese culture. So group outings are usually a good way to get closer to people outside of class, because a lot of people are going to want to socialize and do things together. Then the other thing we want to mention is that collectively, non-Japanese people are referred to as foreigners or gaikokujin. So this term has no inherent negative connotations associated with it. It really depends on the context in which you hear it. But we do want to emphasize that you should avoid the gaijin smash, which is this idea of using your foreign status as an excuse to ignore Japanese rules and customs. We really highly emphasize that you avoid that. It can be seen as very rude if you try and use your quote unquote foreigner status to ignore rules or feel like you're above rules that are in Japan. It really is a sign of respect to try and humble yourself and keep the peace by honoring those rules and those social norms there. Next, in terms of housing, we just want to give some reminders too. Your housing details all depend on your ISEP host institution, but these are some general reminders and things to think about. If you're invited to someone's house, it's customary to bring a small gift with you. So remember to think about bringing one. It doesn't have to be anything crazy fancy. It can just be something very nice. For example, something simple that they can snack on, or something very small that they can display in their house. Remember, removing your shoes, very important. Don't bring your outside shoes in, and wear slippers if they offer them to you. Tatami mat, you might see that be laid out in some of the rooms that you're going to be staying in, and you will see pictures of that on the left here. It might be different than like wood flooring or other types of flooring that you're used to at your home institution. Cleanliness is highly prioritized, as we mentioned before. So please try your best to try and be clean. Don't leave trash or anything around and expect people to be picking it up. Please be responsible for your own trash too. ISEP students may stay on campus. Some of you may be doing homestays. Some of you may be staying in local housing near the campus. So for those who are living off campus, your commute time may be close to an hour, especially if you're going to be staying in some locations that are very busy in the cities. So please be ready for that. That is very normal for people who are living in residential areas and commuting into busier parts of the city. And especially during rush hours, it can be upwards of an hour to an hour and a half. So please just be ready for that. It's a very normal commute, albeit a little bit long depending on what you're used to. Please expect curfews and noise restrictions, especially if you're going to be staying in shared living with other students. And dormitory events are often run by the RAs and who are local students at your host institution. So definitely keep an eye out for those dormitory events if you want to get to know your neighbors more. And then we also want to go over some quick homestay reminders for those of you who will be staying in a homestay in your ISEP program. So you should talk to your host family about your essentials and needs upon arrival. If you have a chance to talk to them before you get there, that's even better. But please remember to try and talk about that and be very open and honest and communicative about that. And also remember to be flexible if not all your needs can be met. You know, your family, it has only can do so much too, and they only have so many resources available to them. So it's important to meet them in the middle. Join your host family for meals. Try not to skip out on those meals. You're going to miss out a lot on many opportunities to connect and also practice your Japanese if you're always wanting to go out and travel to different parts of the city. So honor the time and the space that they're giving to you. Remember, a homestay is not a hotel or a hostel. Respect the hard work your family is doing to host you, which goes into, the bullet we just mentioned about joining your host family for meals. And remember to practice the language. Don't be afraid. They're doing the homestay because they want to help you practice. So don't feel bad if you make a mistake or you're worried about not being fluent. This is a learning experience for them as well. So definitely utilize it and take advantage of this unique environment that you're going to be in. And respecting your elders is integral to Japanese culture. So remember to use proper language when addressing senior members of your family. And remember to be very kind to them and remember those hierarchical structures we talked about earlier in the presentation. Next, we'll quickly go over meals. You may be super familiar with Japanese cuisine and maybe the one thing you're super excited for, but we'll just go over some reminders. Rice, fish, vegetables, miso soups, other meats, ramen noodles. The list goes on. There's so much you can eat in Japan, but you just want to remember, especially if you have dietary restrictions, we recommend learning how to express them in Japanese beforehand. So, if you have to say that you cannot eat meat or only eat fish, you really want to express that, especially if you're going to go to smaller shops that might not have a very diverse menu. Vegan students should be cautious of dashi, which is a fish stock that's very common in a lot of soups in Japanese cuisine. So if you are vegan, definitely be mindful of that and remember to ask if that is in your soup that you're going to be drinking. Itadakimasu. That is a way to say I give thanks for the food. So you might hear a lot of people say that right before they're about to eat. So we recommend practicing that too. It's very kind and courteous to utilize that at the table. Rice is considered a staple food, so it's often eaten with smaller meat and veggies and side dishes. High fat foods such as fish and meat are main ingredients. And the one unique thing about Japanese culture is that cartilage and other parts of the animals are not usually wasted. So you might see that a cuisine is going to use all parts of the animal, not just like the flesh or meat part of it. So please don't be surprised if you see that. And the other thing is that convenience stores are super common in Japan. So you'll see Family Mart, Lawson, 7-Elevens everywhere. And this can be a great way to get a snack or get a really cheap meal in between classes if you're especially trying to eat on a budget. Last thing about meals, many small restaurants have select menus with very specific options. So don't be surprised if a restaurant is only serving one thing. Izakaya pubs often offer tabe hodai or nomi hodai deals. So for a set price, you can get an hour or two to drink and eat as much as you like. So they can be really good to utilize too if you want to get a good deal. Never let your chopsticks rest on top of or inside your food. Remember to place them next to your plate. It's considered rude if you stick it in. Slurping your noodles is actually seen as a compliment and is actually very encouraged. And then this is a reminder not to tip. It's actually considered rude in Japan to tip. So remember not to. Long lines are also expected in big tourist spots, so don't be surprised if there's a really popular spot that has a super long wait. This is also very common if you're going to be in Tokyo, so just as a heads up. And also be careful of animal cafes in terms of the ethics of some of those cafes. It can be kind of shady, admittedly. So definitely be mindful of that and maybe try and go to other locations and other restaurants if you really want to have a great or unique experience. In terms of technology in Japan, it's a tech-driven nation, of course. There's lots of services that are automated in big cities. Japan uses Type A and Type B plugs specifically. So if you're curious about what they use, you can see the photos here. In terms of internet access, we recommend that you rent a SIM card or hotspot. Free Wi-Fi can actually be pretty hard to find, even in places that are open to the public. So eSIMs or physical SIMs are popular and affordable ways to get your data on your phone. But remember that you might have to unlock your phone before you can get an eSIM or another SIM. We have some recommendations here: Mobile, Sakura, Siley, Airalo. These are pretty popular providers that you can use for a SIM card. But eSIMs do not require you to put a physical card in your phone, so they're also a great option too. We recommend that you get a commuter pass or a J-Rail pass. This is for summer students who have the option of getting a J-Rail pass. But if you have any questions, if you're a semester student, you have questions about whether or not you can get one, we recommend asking your host university or family about getting a student discount card and whether you can get one. We recommend that you get cash and get a smart card too as well while you're in Japan. There are vending machines located everywhere, drinks, noodles. You can get so many different products within those vending machines. And then also we recommend that you get a Line account, which is an app that you can use to save people's IDs, and then you can chat with them. And virtually everybody has a Line account in Japan. So we recommend that you make one for yourself too. In terms of finances in Japan, so Japanese yen, about 100 yen is about 0.65 US cents, about 65 cents. So many small markets or small shops may only accept cash, so please be ready for that. It's actually very normal in Japan to carry cash. So please be ready, like if your card is not going to be used, that's pretty common in some shops. And if you're worried about that, just note that petty theft is very uncommon in Japan. So just as long as you don't keep super large amounts of cash with you, you should be fine. Seven Bank has the best rate on fees if you're wondering about exchanging your money and getting cash. So Seven Bank, remember to save that. Debit cards and credit cards may carry transaction fees. So you just want to be mindful of that and make sure that you're looking up with your card that you want to use, whether you're going to have transaction fees that are going to be charged to you. Mobile pay options usually are limited to Japanese credit cards. So if there is a mobile pay option at the store, if your card does not work, do not panic. It just might be because it's not Japanese. So you might have to use like cash, for example. If you're traveling between cities, the trains can be the quickest way to get to where you need to go, but they can be quite expensive. Like, for example, the J Rail. So, again, don't be surprised if you are trying to get a ticket or you're trying to get like a good deal on like a multi-city ticket and it's upwards of, like more than $50 or 60, 70. So just be mindful of that, but note that the subway and other forms of transportation are usually pretty cheap. There's also 100 yen shops though too, if you really want to be on a budget where you can get some really quick items too. So keep an eye out for those 100 yen shops. Fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, this is especially for any of you who are going to be cooking while you're on your program, they can be rather expensive. So don't be surprised too if some of those fresh vegetables are maybe a little more expensive than you're used to. So remember to budget for that too. And also, just as a tip, if anyone is going to be going to the temples and want to travel to and do some tourism there, temple passes are great for Japanese attractions because you can also be able to get pretty good discounts on going to different temples. For ISIP exchange students, some of you may have to create a bank account for your stipend. This is not all of you, but some of you. So you want to check your ISIP acceptance package to see if this is applicable. And if you have questions on what you need to do for that, you are going to get assistance from your host ISIP university about what you need to do after arrival. So don't panic. Make sure you're checking those announcements. In terms of transportation in Japan, metro subway systems can be kind of complex at first, but once you figure it out, they're incredibly efficient. Rush hour in the morning is, it usually happens in the morning, and in the late afternoons, it can get pretty busy, actually very busy. So please be ready for that and be mindful of those periods of the day. So if you are not great with big crowds, you kind of know what to avoid. We recommend getting an IC card to get fares automatically discounted for you. If you have questions on what an IC card is, let us know. We can kind of show you. But this is a great way to get some of your fares discounted and to use that throughout the rest of your program to get the fees discounted. Jorudan is a great app to use to see the train schedules and rates. Google Maps works pretty well too, but if you want to use an app that is best in Japan, we recommend Jorudan. Many regional train lines can take you to other big cities within a couple hours. So take advantage of this over the weekend. It's the best way to go and visit and see the rest of the countries by using these trains. Many people will wear masks on trains. So if you see that, don't be surprised. A lot of people also wear masks if they know they are sick. So we recommend also trying that too. If you know you're sick, to be courteous of those around you, also put a mask on. And it's also considered rude or low class to eat or drink while walking or on public transportation. So please do not do that. In terms of sports and leisure, just some information we want to give to you if you're curious about what to do and how to have fun in Japan. Baseball is one of the most popular spectator sports. Soccer, martial arts, running, swimming, all of those are very popular. Sumo wrestling is Japan's national sport. So it may be a great opportunity to go see and see that up close if you want to go. Hiking and nature appreciation are very important to Japanese people. So again, too, you'll see people who are walking around often throughout the day, and Japanese people take very good care of parks and natural areas. There's a very big pedestrian culture too, as well. So people tend to walk or bike around a lot. But there's also other pastimes like shodo and also karaoke, which originated in Japan. So we recommend that you kind of engage in all these different ways that you can spend time in your free time on your program. Here, this is a slide for holidays and vacation periods during your ISEP program. So I won't read these all, but you want to pause and take a look and see which dates may align with your ISEP program. You also may not have class on those days too, but you want to keep that in mind. Also, if you want to travel, there might be some businesses that are going to change their hours or close entirely on these days. So feel free to pause, take a look, and maybe take a screenshot or keep this in mind. Next, we did want to go over culture shock with all of you. Culture shock is real. Some students don't believe it is, but we want to emphasize that it is real and can happen at any time during your study abroad, no matter how much you might know or study about Japan before you get there. So, this we at ISEP, we call this the honeymoon phase when you're in the beginning of your program and you're so excited about doing everything. You're going out, you're eating, you're meeting new people, you're traveling outside of the city, and it can be so fun in the beginning, but then as you get into your routine of things, it can be overwhelming realizing that you have to adjust for several more weeks. And we call that the stress stage of study abroad. And it can be very difficult. So we have a culture shock handout that has tips on how to deal with it that you should have received by now that we recommend that you read through. And if you have any questions, you should reach out to us here at ISEP or your host ISEP University. Some examples of things that students have been shocked about in the past and they weren't ready for. Punctuality is so highly valued. You may be from a culture where, 8 o'clock can mean, 8:05 or 8:15, or maybe it's even rude to be on time. But in Japan, it's very heavily valued to be on time, and that not coming on time is not respecting the host or other people's time. And then, as we mentioned just before, people do not eat or drink on the street. And so you may be super thirsty or you want to try like a treat you have, but it's actually really considered rude to be eating. So our advice when you're facing these cultural shocks or these new parts of a culture that you're not ready for, you don't know, think to yourself it's not right or wrong, it's just different. You are here to do something different. You're not here to experience what you experienced at your home country, right? So remember that it's just different. Remember also that you cannot change or influence an entire culture overnight. So you may have a really awkward interaction with somebody and you may feel immediately like, oh, I wish things were not like this or people didn't do this. But you have to remember that people are just a product of their society. So it's important to take everything day by day and focus on what you can do to understand that interaction and what you can do in the next day so that you're ready if it happens again. And then we recommend that you journal your experience too as well. Reread that journal entry that you write down and then also see later if you have learned something since the first time you experienced something. Maybe you understand more about what happened because you realize it's a product of society or something else you don't know. So these are our tips on how to deal with culture shock, aside from also reaching out to us here at ISEP and your coordinator so we can assist you. Here is just reflections from past ISEP students about their time abroad. So again, we recommend that you pause and you read this more, so you can understand what to expect and some tips from them based on their experience in Japan. So now we're going to go into the academic section. There's more information about all this in your ISEP country handbook, but we're going to go over it very quickly today. First, the higher education system in Japan, it is a leader of technology, business, and economics, Japan. So there's really great classes related to all of these fields. The academic year runs from April through the end of January. So their spring semester is called the first semester, April through July typically. Then the fall is the second semester from September through January. And then there's a big gap between January to April. So that might be opposite from what you experience at your home country. So just be mindful of that. There's also a Golden Week holiday in early May where there's like a short break where many people go and travel and a lot of businesses are closed. So be mindful of that if you're going to be a spring ISEP student. Course availability in English can be limited at the university level depending on the department. So please don't be surprised too if maybe there is a field of study that you have so many classes in at your home institution, but it's just a lot fewer in at your host institution. That is just the reality of things. And there's also for students who have proficiency in Japanese or have a really high proficiency and want to take Japanese classes. As you might know, there's a Japanese language proficiency test, the JLPT, that you can also take. And students who have a really high score in that may be able to take Japanese taught academic classes. So if you have questions about that, please feel free to reach out to us here at ISEP and we can assist you. In terms of registration, there are international student advisors who typically help incoming students with course selection and registration. So you're likely going to register for courses within about a month before your arrival. This definitely differs if you're on a summer program. That may vary that timeline, and then sometimes courses are finalized after arrival, so you may do like a pre-registration or may fill out your courses, but you're not actually finalizing that until you're on the ground in Japan. So you should contact your host ISEP coordinator for more details about this on course registration and what should be expected of you as you prepare for that. Remember to check your pre-departure information tab to find this info, pre-registration, whether it's going to be online or offline, dates, forms, whatever you need to do in order to be set for that. It's your responsibility to research that. You should check with your host university about the add drop period because oftentimes there's going to be a time where you can drop a class if you feel like it doesn't meet your needs or doesn't fit you. So make sure you know when that is so you're aware if you're having troubles adjusting in the beginning of the semester. And then typically only classes students register for and also classes students complete will officially appear on your transcript. So please don't be surprised if you withdraw from a class and it's not on your transcript. If you have questions about that or your home university has questions, please reach out to us. But this is just a note that might that is typically the case for a lot of Japanese universities. In terms of campus culture, lecture type courses and smaller seminar classes are pretty common in Japan. Some core classes will be a larger size, but then other specialized major courses might have many local students taking them. More casual and distance form of assessment might happen in your classes. So you may see that it's not super hands-on, or maybe there's not too many one-on-one time with your professors, but still professors are seen in high regard and should always be respected as you're on your ISEP program. You should introduce yourself at the beginning of the semester and let them know that you're an international student so that they can be aware and they can also manage their expectations for you. But we also recommend sitting near the front of the class so then you can be at the front of their mind and you can also make that good impression with your professors. We recommend that you write to your ISEP coordinator and academic advisor for general questions, or if you're having any trouble contacting a professor, please make sure you do that. We want to help you, and we can't help you if we don't know you need help. So please don't be afraid to reach out to them. And if you have any questions about the education system, please you can look in your ISEP country handbook for more details. Some other things about campus culture: students study extremely hard to get into university. Once they are there, the philosophy changes to a more relaxed one. So don't be surprised if some students aren't coming to class super frequently. Maybe they only come to take exams. It's just kind of a shift in the mindset because many students worked so hard in high school to get into college. So it might be different than what you're used to. Student clubs, organizations, and sports teams are really important on campus because it's a way for students to socialize. So student circles, which are a form of club in Japan, these are dedicated to hosting international students. You should ask about these because this is the best way to join a club and try and meet with local students while you're in Japan. Bulkatsu, this is a very intense sports team where you eat, breathe, and live that sport. So you might see people talk about that and see things like a baseball team or another type of team be highly regarded in your host university. Part-time jobs are permitted for students who are in Japan, but please talk to your host ISEP coordinator about this before you arrive so you understand the expectations about getting one. We don't usually recommend ISEP students to go for part-time jobs just because of how many other responsibilities you'll have, but if you do have questions, you should reach out to your host ISEP coordinator. And dorm parties are not super common. Gatherings tend to end around 11 p.m. So again, please don't be surprised if you're out with friends and they cut the fun early. That's just normal to the culture there. In terms of exams, grades, and credits, so there are usually very few assignments throughout the semester. You may see some local students just showing up at the end of the term for your paper, for example, or for the exam. So please be ready because there are not many assignments. Be ready because your grade is going to be heavily weighted towards the exams that you are going to take. And assignments rely on memorization and focus less on discussion. So please be ready to be studying and looking over your materials and really learning that rather than having many presentations throughout your classes. But please pay attention and please attend class and inform your professors that you're an international student so you can set up that rapport with them and you can also set that expectation with them like we talked about earlier. Here is the general grading system that's used in Japan. Again, it really depends on your host institution, but if you're curious or maybe you saw that grades start with S and you didn't know what that meant, this is an example of a conversion that can be used if, for example, if you use the US grading system, what that would be equivalent to. So you can pause, you can take a look, but we'll move forward for now. Then we have exam, grades, and credits. So most academic courses in Japan are 2 or 3 credits each. Some language classes may be mandatory, but it depends on your program. Usually those language classes too are intensive because they want to help students really have a good foundation. So when you're outside of the classroom, you can navigate life in Japan well. So be ready to practice often in and out of class. 1 credit usually is 45 hours of work, but it can depend. 3 credits would be typically equivalent to 3 US credits, which would equal 6 ECTS credits if your university uses that system, which is usually around 12 UK credits. But you are responsible for making sure you enroll in sufficient credits at your home institution. And you're also responsible for talking to your academic advisor about credit transfer. So if you have any questions on that, please make sure you connect with your home ISEP coordinator. Next, we wanted to briefly go over health and safety resources. Now, we do have a full health and safety presentation that you might have seen or are going to see soon that goes over this in detail. So we won't go super far into this. We just want to remind you the ISEP emergency line is 1-301-681-2388. So please make sure that you write this down and you keep this on you. Write it down somewhere and also add it to your phone. You also have the ISEP Health and Safety Program, which includes health insurance from CISI. That's who you reach out to if you say you have a bill from a visit that you do in Japan. You can reach out to them to file your claims for you. Then we also have AXA Assistance, which offers travel assistance, evacuation, and repatriation insurance. So AXA Assistance can really help. They can also help find providers for you in Japan if you want to find an English-speaking doctor, for example. So the ISEP Health and Safety Program has a lot of features of it, and it can also cover you anywhere outside of your home country. So it doesn't have to just be Japan. If you go to South Korea for a weekend, it can also cover you. So more information about your resources are in your ISEP Health and Safety section of your ISEP dashboard, and it's also going to be covered on site during orientation, just general health and safety tips. Make sure that you review your CISI policy brochure that you got when you enrolled in the health insurance with us, and then also download the My CISI app so you can also utilize some functions of your insurance that way. But we also have an insurance section of the ISEP website if you have any more questions about this. Next, we want to talk about health and safety in Japan. So overall, the cities in Japan are very safe, even in the late evenings. So, but if you need help, of course, we recommend that you seek immediate attention from local emergency services. So the police number in Japan is 110, ambulance and rescue is 119, and then non-emergencies are 7119 if you just need information from somebody. But if you need help, you should head to the local Koban. There's a picture of an example of what this station looks like. These are small police boxes dotted throughout Japanese neighborhoods. So we recommend that you go to them if you need immediate help. Be aware, stay vigilant in crowded places like subways. You just want to be mindful of your person and who's around you. And you should call your homestay family for help if you need help. You should never feel like you have to go through any situation by yourself. So please lean on them because that's what they're there for. That's why they are here. Um, Also remember to print out and carry your health insurance ID cards in your wallet at all times. And remember to save all medical documentation and receipts. The ISEP Health and Safety Program is going to cover any applicable medical costs above the $50 deductible. Next, we just want to quickly go over some packing tips for you. You should research what the weather is going to look like in your region of Japan, because as we discussed at the very beginning, Japan has a very diverse climate. In central Japan, it's usually rainy and humid from March to August, but then it's also very cold from November to February. So it's recommended to pack. I recommend packing layers and like things like cardigans that you can easily put on if the weather is kind of fluctuating. Remember at the same time though to pack light because you can always purchase new clothes once you're there, and it's also a good way to fit the local fashion. So if you're interested in that, so just remember to be mindful of what you're bringing with you because you're going to be there for several months. There's always time to get something if you need it. For toiletries, some products like toothpaste, shampoo, deodorant, they may have different chemical makeup than what you're used to, is what we definitely also hear from expats, other ISEP students. So make sure that you're researching what might be different. Also, if you have like a toiletry that you need, so for example, for hair care, that you don't think that you can easily get in Japan, you want to make sure you bring that with you. For medication, some common medications like Adderall are heavily regulated in Japan. We mentioned this to ISEP students in a separate email, so keep an eye out for that. But if you have questions, please reach out to us. You should research your plan of care ahead of time and make sure that you are bringing your prescription with you when you go to Japan. If you're going to stay with a homestay family, please bring them a nice gift. As we talked about in the beginning, small snacks from your hometown are a great thing to bring if you're not too sure what to bring with you. But also bring some items from home if you also want to make sure that you don't get too homesick. That's definitely a great way to make sure that you kind of deal with that. Having little photos, things you can put around your room are definitely recommended. But you should also check your pre-departure information in your ISEP portal. Check if you need to bring sheets and towels. And if you do need to bring them because they're not provided, research where you can go nearby your housing so you can go pick those up on your first day. Lastly, we just want to go over your resources again. And as we have so many different resources for your pre-departure, your country handbook, as we've talked about, your ISEP acceptance package, your pre-departure information and health and safety information in your ISEP dashboard. But we also have different web pages that are super helpful, such as Before You Go Abroad, the travel information, financial information, and medications page. But then also you should familiarize yourself with the While You Are Abroad webpage that has culture shock, diversity and inclusion and accessibility abroad resources, and health and safety and risk management resources too. But also remember it's your responsibility to review any announcements from your host university. Make sure you check the spam and junk folders because it's your responsibility to make sure that you're following up with information from your host. And lastly, very quickly, we just want to remind you about staying in touch with people while you're abroad. So determine before you leave how you're going to stay in touch with your family and friends back home and your home ISEP coordinators too. So we have some tips for staying in touch. Sometimes it's best to change and use a different app like WhatsApp if you're going to be abroad. So look into that. And remember to contact your family upon your safe arrival. It's so easy to get caught up with everything that's going on and being so jet lagged that you forget to tell them that you've arrived. So remember to do that. And then lastly, we just want to give you some places that you can go if you want to connect with ISEP students or you want to share your story with us. We have ISEP TikTok and ISEP Instagram pages. So ISEP Study Abroad is our handle for both of those. We have a Facebook page if you want to connect, and we also have LinkedIn too as well. So we love to see students on their program. You can hashtag and tag us, and we can share your story if you want to. But that's it for our presentation today. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to check your ISEP dashboard for more information on me, your student services officer, and let us know if we can support you with anything as you prepare. But safe travels, and thank you so much for today.